Right, here we are back in the yak cave again for this video. A little bit different to normal, but with all that's been going on recently with the bad weather and things, we haven't been able to get out fishing much. So I thought I'd do a safety video and what I've learned over the years of kayak fishing, of what is and isn't appropriate. So I thought, why not see if we can help you people with your kayaking and hopefully get you back to your family at the end of the day. So there's been an increased number of missing kayakers or kayaks that have been recovered out to sea, and most of this could have been prevented by following some basic rules. Now, what we need to remember is that as kayakers, we are probably the lowest and slowest moving thing out there on the water. So for a boatie to be able to see us in adverse conditions is very difficult. So we need to it needs to be on us to make sure that we can be seen, and if not seen, at least heard. So first thing for safety wise, I would say is the most important, is a good life jacket. Now we use these Yak high back life jackets. They have a nice high back, so it means that when you're sitting in the kayak, the seat will actually sit, or the seat back will sit just under the back of the life jacket, which means it's very comfortable. You're not struggling. Has nice big pockets, 2 pockets on each side, and then a bungee pocket. You just need to be aware that things in these pockets can and will get wet.
Hey man, where's your life jacket? You have no business being out here without it. You know what I think of humans that don't wear life jackets?
This summer, Lotto says,
have fun in the water, but do what you oughta.
So what do we have with our life jackets? So the next thing I would always add is a VHF radio, because a lot of the time where we're going, there's no cell phone coverage, or if there is cell phone coverage, it's very patchy. So basically, if we want to be rescued, our first port of call is those around us. And my way of talking to them is via the VHF. Now this, we have on a little bit of a lanyard, clips onto the life jacket, sits in my pocket, so therefore that is always on us. If we end up in the water, our radio is with us. If we lose the kayak, we can easily make a call to somebody else that can hopefully come and rescue us, if there's somebody in the area. Now, another thing, so we always have multiple forms of communication. So we do have our cell phone, if we are in an area that has coverage. In a waterproof case, again, located on our person. If we end up in the water, we still have our phone with us. And it's also good for taking photos of fish and your friends out on the water. So I guess you're starting to see a bit of a pattern here that our imported items we should keep on our person, or at least as close to us as possible. Now, another way we can do this is by having a personal locator beacon. Again, this one's nice and small. This is my wife's one. Mine's a lot less, or a lot more bulky than this. But this is a perfect size for a kayak. Again, on a bungee cord. It can sit in the pocket. We can connect that up the same way. So again, sounding like a broken record here, but if we end up in the water, all our important stuff is with us. It's nice and easy. Now, next up in personal safety wise that I feel is important is to have a good knife. Now again, we have our knife attached, in this case, on leg luggage, which is then strapped around our calf so that it's always on us. Again, if we end up in the water, tangled in ropes, nice and easy, get the knife out, cut the rope, free yourself, and carry on. So again, that's something I will always have attached to my person. So that covers some of our most important gear that we will always have on us at all times. The other things that we need to know or need to do to remain safe is if we're going out, we need to tell somebody, whether it be family, friends, or even Coast Guard if you're going quite a way offshore, is lodge a trip report. Tell them where you're going. Tell them how many people are going, your estimated timings, leave with them contact information, and vessel information. So your kayak type, the model or the make and model, colour, and call sign if you have one, so that you can easily be contacted. Okay, now to go through our safety devices that aren't kept on us. It always pays to have a good 360-degree light and flag. So this will go on the back of the kayak. Goes on the back of the kayak. That happens to be a Railblazer one, so it goes on the starport, clips in nicely. There's actually another link to this, so you can go higher if you are expecting to be out in rougher conditions. Has multiple modes, high, low, and strobe. So that's just another way that we can help to be seen out on the water. So we can't always be seen, but we can at least try and be heard. Now there's a couple of ways of doing this. One is with the whistle. Now, your standard whistle is not really ideal for out on the water. They contain normally or in previous years, basically a little cork P that vibrates around inside the whistle to make the noise. Now, the downside of this is when it gets wet, they tend to stick or they don't vibrate as much, so therefore they don't make as much noise. So if you are going to get a whistle, I highly recommend a marine whistle or a P-less whistle. These are the ones that you quite often find sold on kids' life jackets, and it's probably the ideal for out on the water. The other way is with a little air horn, like this. Now you need to keep an eye on these because the canisters can and will rust. So it always pays to make sure there's no rust, no corrosion, and that it is actually full and ready to go. Now these ones are pretty much a one-use horn, so I won't test it out for you. So that's being heard. And the other way is just to, if need be, just yell. Again, with visibility, pays to have a good headlight. If you're launching early in the morning or expecting to come back late at night, a headlamp is pretty much a lifesaver. Not only in helping you see where you're going, but other people can see you better. And when you get back, it just helps sort stuff out. So when you paddle out in the morning with your headlight on, it pays to have something like this, just a small dry bag, but once you've finished, once the sun comes up, put your headlamp in the dry bag, secure it up. That can then be secured inside your kayak, or with mine, I normally just have it sitting over one of the rod holders on the front so it can't fall off. That way, if ever I need to get back to it, it's nice and easy. It's just right there and just carry on. Also pays to have a small first aid kit for minor cuts and scrapes. Being bitten by a snapper will often result in blood. I found that out the other weekend. Also, any other medication you may take in your daily routine or may need, it pays to have that on board, whether you suffer from indigestion and need some antacids or prone to headaches, take some ibuprofen, something like that, just whatever you need to keep going. Now, as with all of this, any of this gear, we need to check it regularly, make sure it's maintained, make sure it's in usable condition. Radios, make sure the batteries are charged. Headlamps, again, make sure the batteries are charged. Another thing it pays to have is a spare paddle. Now, being most of us are on paddle kayaks, our paddle is our primary source of propulsion. If we were to break it, like I have here, this was my very first paddle on a trip out to Arid Island on the Bounty Hunter, a mothership trip. We were exploring one of the caves there. As soon as I went to paddle out, the end of my paddle snapped and I was having to basically use it as a single paddle to get out off the beach. Luckily in this situation, one of my friends fishing with me had a Bixby on my back, so he lent me his paddle. He had his Bixby on. We motored straight back to the Bounty Hunter and, well, he motored, I paddled, and got a spare paddle off the boat. I gave him his paddle back, so we were all safe again and we continued fishing. So it's not one of those things you expect to happen, but it's one of those things that can happen, so a spare is always very handy. These fit nicely in the front hatch of a reload. You can strap them to it so that they won't move around too much. But again, a good thing to have is a spare paddle, especially when you're traveling quite a distance offshore. Right, so then what do you do before you go away? Now, the first thing we really need to do is look at the weather forecast. Now, being in a kayak, we're highly affected by wind and swells and currents, so it pays to check that all of these are basically going to play ball. The worst thing you can have is for the wind to pick up when you're out there, get wind against swell, and it just chops up and is not a nice place to be in. So always check the weather. If the weather doesn't look like it's going to be good, don't risk it. It's not worth it. It always pays to know your limits and stay well within them. And again, safety in numbers. If you can, fish with a buddy. Not only is it good safety-wise, it's also good fun. Have yourself a little wager on who can catch the biggest fish. Clothing. Now, we need to make sure that when we go out, our clothing is appropriate for the conditions that we're going to be in. So if there's wind, take some form of windbreaker. I find the shark skin range is quite good. This will keep me warm even when it's wet and does block a little bit of the wind. But on top of that, or in my kayak with me, I'll also take a windbreaker just to throw on just if it does get a lot worse. But again, we're not going out in extremely rough conditions, so, well, we tend not to go out in extremely rough conditions, so it's not normally a big thing unless the conditions change and it is unexpected. But another thing that's been happening, or has happened in this area in the past, is the Coast Guard or a member of the public has found a kayak floating out to sea, nobody in it, no gear, no information. Now, their first port of call then is to get that kayak and see if there's any information on it so they can work out who it belongs to. So it's always ideal to have your personal information attached to your kayak somehow. And this should include your name, your address, and your phone number. That way, if the kayak gets found, they can go, okay, it's this person, so we will try and contact them. If we contact them and they go, oh no, I'm at home, the kayak was sitting on a beach, and then they know that they're not needing to go out to look for somebody. Because the conditions may be less than ideal. There may be people having to go out and basically put their life at risk to find somebody that's sitting at home and just forgot about their kayak. The other thing we need to do is we need to learn what to do if/when we turtle. Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It will happen to you at some stage in your kayaking career. It's just one of those unavoidable things. Shit happens, and you need to be prepared for it. So we need to know how to get our kayak back upright, because chances are when you fall off, it will end up upside down. So we need to learn how to get the kayak back up the right way again, and then how to get ourselves back onto the kayak. So over we go. Over we go. First, we need to always make sure that we remain in contact with our kayak. An empty kayak can quickly and easily float away. Chances are high that the kayak will be upside down, so first we need to rewrite the kayak. To do this, we start by holding onto the bottom of the kayak, letting our legs float to the surface behind us. With a strong kick of the legs and a pull with the arms, we haul our chest towards the centre of the kayak and reach to grab the far side. Then, whilst keeping hold of the far side, we propel ourselves back into the water the way we came, thus pulling the kayak with us. Getting back onto the kayak is a similar process. First, we make sure the deck area is clear of lines, hooks or any other hazards. We then grab the kayak near the seat, letting our legs float out behind us as before, keeping as flat as we can. And with a strong kick of the legs and a pull with the arms, propel your chest up onto the kayak. You keep the centre of gravity as low as possible whilst you twist around and into a seated position. It's a matter of getting your butt back in the seat. That camera didn't like that. From there you can have a rest. You want to stay as flat as you can. Hello. Oh, that one needs help. You pretty much get to here, you can have a rest. It's a matter of getting your butt back in the seat. Also, when it comes to clothing, bright coloured clothing, bright colours make sure that you stand out. This green is actually amazing to see out on the water. You can see it from quite a distance. Same with the fluoro orange. So bright colours that can be seen, not blues, not blacks, not greys, so very hard to see. Nice bright colours. So that concludes everything I wanted to cover in this video. If there's anything that I have missed or that you would like to add, please add a comment to the video below. If you like this content, again, comment, like, subscribe. It helps me know what videos that people want to make, whether they want me just out fishing or if they do like the informative information. The only way to find that out is by you people. So thank you for watching, and look forward to you watching in the future. Cheers.